Welcome to the System Simplified podcast, where we feature top leaders who share stories on how to successfully systemize a business. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hello, Adi Klevit here, the host of the System Simplified podcast, where I feature top founders, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders about systematizing a business. And today's episode is being brought to you by Business Success Consulting Group, where we create, document, and implement processes and procedures so businesses can grow and thrive. And today's guest, I'm very honored to introduce today's guest, is Steve Ramona. Hi, Steve.
Hello, Adi. Thank you for having me on.
You're very welcome. So Steve and I recorded an interview on his podcast a few weeks ago, and I was so impressed by his by his attitude, by his values, by the fact that he loves to network and to connect, that I said, okay, Steve, you got to be on my podcast as well, because we're going to talk about the system of networking, because there is a system to it, You definitely have to be intentional. You have to know what you're doing. I had a great interview that I've done in the past with Alice Tang, and she has a great method basically of networking, and I will include the show notes. The link to that episode in the show notes so people can listen to it. I interviewed others about networking, but Steve, you definitely have a very, very unique approach, and we're going to talk about that. So first of all, your intro. We have to do the proper intro, right? So Steve, you discovered networking was the real deal at a very young age. You can tell us what age, but if you want to. And
18 years old.
13, okay. And you're
18 years old.
18, okay. And you are on a mission to teach the world how to network correctly. Your passion is the law of increase, is your secret sauce. So we're going to talk about the law of increase. I would like to hear about the secret sauce. And podcasting is now the new way of networking, which I agree. And you built an incredible inner circle. You actually have your own TV show that you just told me you got to watch yourself on your own TV show on Apple TV, which is fantastic. And we'll talk about that. And, we want to inspire and educate our listeners so they will, enjoy the fruits of correct networking. So let's start with your story. So you said at a very young age, the age of 18, you got exposed or learned about networking. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so at 18, just finished high school, and most high school seniors are like, okay, let's go have fun. My high school years are over. And my cousin, my family launched a health club, and he said, hey, would you like to come work the front desk and make some money in the summer? I'm like, yeah, this is great. Could work during the day and have fun at night, as all seniors that graduate do. And I started meeting these people, 40, 50, 60, 70, my peers, not my peers, people older than me, elders that were very successful in business. But I say that because it was fearful. Like, how do I talk to these people? What do I do? So I would just say, hey, Adi, welcome. Have a great workout. Hey, Adi, thanks. Hope your workout was great. But when we start doing that, or when I started doing that, I started building relationships, which is the foundation of networking. And how's your vacation? I hear you're getting away. Hey, Steve, how's your job search going? Are you going to stay? So you start talking like friends, which I think business should be. We should be working with people that we care about, want to work with. And one of the stories is Tony. I think it was 18, 19. And I would see Tony out there, very successful financial advisor, made millions for people. He'd, hey, kid, telling you, hey, kid, how you doing? Hey, kid, doing well, Tony. So he walked in one day and said, I said, hey, Tony, have a great workout. He goes, hey, kid, I got a tip for you. I'm like, okay, this guy's driving a great car. I'd love to hear his tip. Kid, read that, Wealthy Barber. I said, okay. And he gave me the book, about 60 pages short. He goes, it's short for you young kids. You can read in a weekend. So we laughed. So the next week he came in and he said, did you read the book? I said, I did. So you're telling me save 10% of my, there's more to it, but basically save 10% of my income every month and put it somewhere and don't touch it. Kid, you got it. Cool. So it's about 12, 11 years later. I'm 30 years old. I kind of looked at the account once in a while, but I followed his lead. I didn't touch the money. Been a few years, and I looked at the amount, it was $58,000 in that account. Had been compounding, accruing, like it said in the book. So I called Tony because he was gone from the club. I didn't see him because he's older. And I said, hey, Tony, I want to thank you. You know, I followed your advice and this would happen. Yeah, that's great, because you know what? Most of my 95% of my customers and clients never listened to me, and they lost millions because I'd give them the same type of advice. I said, you know, let me give you $1,000. You gave me great tip. I know it's been 10 years. Kid, I don't need it. You listen to me. That's the money I need. Just you listening. So what I learned was, and I got off the phone, I'm like, guy probably didn't need money, but he didn't accept my money. Oh, wait a minute. He served me. And that's why all these years he was so successful. Not the money from me, but going out and serving people like me, and then the universe changing. And then opportunities came. I mean, I think I don't know what he's very wealthy when he left us. He was doing quite well and retired. So I learned, like, I'm just going to serve the heck out of people. Just give them value, help them, talk to them, be there for them, support them. And I started building this relationship. By 25, I had 10,000 people in my network just from the club. You know, go out to eat the dinner. Hey, there's Steve from Royal Quartz. To this day, we closed in 2000. So 23 years, I still run into people. Hey, there's Steve from Royal Quartz. That's a legacy and building relationships that you want to do in business, because you never know when you can leverage them in a great way to help build your business.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Steve, what are the biggest mistakes? And I think we can definitely extrapolate from what you said, but what are the biggest mistakes that people do, that you've observed people do when they network? What are the three biggest no-nos that you don't do in networking?
Don't look desperate. You might have a quota, you want a sales, you need money. Once you look at people, smell that out, and they're not going to work with. That doesn't build a relationship. I'm not going to walk up to a woman that I want to go on a date on and go, God, Audie, I want to go out with you. You don't beg, and it doesn't work. 2 is my favorite one. Shut up and listen. And I shut up because we talk about that, but the bridge of listening, a lot of people don't. How many people, and I don't know if this video, but you talk to people and their head goes, or they're down here, or they're here, and they go, hey, did you hear what I said? Oh, no. What'd you say? That's not listening. The value of listening, you're learning about somebody. You're building that relationship. But here's the third one, the law of increase, bring in value. When you listen to somebody talk to you, you can pick things up. Maybe it's a referral. Maybe it's a tip. Maybe it's a resource. Perfect example. I was doing a one-on-one last week. The guy was talking about his podcast. And I said, do you know you could add your podcast to YouTube by making it a category? And this is like 5 minutes in. As soon as I just go right to value. I showed him. In 10 minutes, he became my best friend. We're now going to do some business together because I did one little thing. I gave him a free tip, a free resource, because I was listening in my head, listening with value, listening, how can I help? Not just listen, go, hey, that's a great story, but dig deeper. Learn about that person, how you can help, serve, support them.
Absolutely. So I guess if we look at mistakes or things not to do, is not just talk to somebody and start thinking what is there for me, how they can help me, but also think about or look at opportunities to help them. So that will be like in terms of the 3 big no-nos is don't look desperate, don't have your attention on something else, and do not listen. And then also don't always look for opportunities of how it can serve you, but look for opportunities how you can serve others. And how can you bring value, whether it's a tip, advice, good word, encourage somebody, compliment, that also brings value, right? I mean, that would be part of the law of increase.
Energy, positive energy that lifts them. Maybe it lifts them a little bit, maybe it lifts them a lot. Yeah, I mean, you walk up to, at church last week, I walked up to a lady, hey, that's a beautiful baby. She didn't know me from Adam. People go, that's a little crazy. No, it's not. When you come from love. And she smiled, and, I made her day for a little bit. Maybe it's 5 seconds, 5 minutes, 5 hours. We don't know. We don't worry about that. But if you go out trying to lift people up, enrich their lives, it comes back as a boomerang. It's happened to me over the last year because now I'm asking, and we'll talk about that more. But it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. You want to keep serving. And I'll put this out there. Here's a challenge I tell everybody I meet. Monday, I want you to wake up, and listeners, this is so valuable. Every person that you meet virtually and in person that you run into, whether you know them or not, first thing you want to think about is how can I bring them value? Write it down. I met Audie, gave her 3 referrals. Saw Tony, I helped them, or if you don't know their name, it's a stranger, helped somebody with their groceries. Told them, whatever that is, write it down if you can remember. Don't have to do all of them. Friday, I want you to do this. Reflect on this. 1, how did you feel on Friday or Saturday? How did you make those people feel? How did that person feel when you helped put the groceries in? I gave somebody referrals. And then 3, how much did it change your life?
Right.
Feel better?
Because it's also, it's not just you're doing from altruistic reason, and then you sacrifice yourself or anything. No. How does it make you feel when you actually help somebody? I mean, that's why you really wake up in the morning. And that's what makes you go. And it's such a huge purpose. And I agree with you. Steve, I interviewed Bob Berg, one of my favorite interviews. He's the author of Go Giver. And he's such a fantastic person. And the principles in that book totally align with the way you serve, the way you think. It's really the go giver. It's the give, give, give. But again, it's not giving with compromising your own integrity or who you are, or giving less, so you have less. No, it's that symbiotic relationship that everyone wins by doing that, because you're really looking at how you can serve.
Yeah. Yeah, even in negative times, arguments, discussions, heated, if you just stop and said, hey, I understand your point of view, that's fantastic. I just have a different one, and that's fine.
Right. That's exactly right.
Being volatile back and forth, it never gets anywhere. We all know that. But this whole noggin in our head, our brain, kind of causes us to do things like that. So always thinking value, even at that time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about your principles and the law of increase and other principles that you learned or you develop in order to be a great networker.
So law of increase came from Think and Grow Rich. And if you haven't read it, read it. There's actually a new book out, People on the Street, I think, A Positive Street. I'll get the title to you, Audie, but it's the tapes from Napoleon Hill that his team found year and a half ago. Out of the blue, they were hidden, and they took those tapes and put it into a book, and it's even better. But the law of increase is thinking every way you can increase. Your dog, you see your dog, tell your dog, I just did before the show, my dog came up and, I love you, Bella. You just increased that dog to make you love more. And dogs are a great example. When you love them more, guess what? They love you even more. Why can't we do that with humans? The other principles, again, is listening, follow up. When you do a one-on-one and you have high energy, like I have a lot of my one-on-ones because I really care about people, follow up the next day, hey, great, or the next week, or whatever you've decided to do. Don't miss those follow-ups, because energy wanes. Because our life is up and down. Today is going to be a great day. Tomorrow could be not so great day. And that could be where you lose touch with people. That's another way of bringing value. And then the other thing I really
Steve, I'm going to stop you on that. Definitely follow up, but it's also what you said is bring your best. Even if you don't feel the best, if you're talking to another person, present yourself at your best. So you have the best interview, you have the best one-to-one, you have the best meeting. That's the way you would like to be treated, right? So you have to bring your best no matter what. Well
said. Yeah. Think of how you want to be treated. We all know how we want to be treated. And I know taxes and death are 100%. I think when you serve and bring value, people have caught me on this. Let's say 99.9%. You're going to leave them with positivity. And that's building relationships. You only have relationships with your best friends, your family. Hey, we have family. Some we're great friends with. Some we're not. They're just our sister and brother. And that's okay, but build relationships with the right people. My inner circle has changed a lot in the last 3 or 4 years, learning that people that I can serve and not take, but people that are willing to work with me, not be combative or, I think I could help them and change. Yeah. Your inner circle is so important to you. I think the phrase, the 5 closest people to you, or I always forget that phrase, but
Right.
that's what I'm talking about. And for me, it's more than 5, but inner circle is so important.
Absolutely. Anything else to the law of increase?
No, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Okay. So how do you serve people, Steve? Because people listen to you go like, okay, we can definitely connect people. We can do all that kind of, all those things, which is fantastic, but you obviously have to make a living. So how do you do that? How do you actually make sure that by connecting people, by serving people, you actually also have a good life and being able to provide for you and your family and everybody else?
Adi, that's an incredible question. I love that. It's probably a principle too, but I learned from a very successful gentleman about a year ago. And it was a big lesson for me. I would serve and serve and serve and go, no, I'm good. Here's your referrals. No, thank you. I appreciate, I'm good. That really shuts off that that energy of the serve. He said, Steve, I built a huge multi-million dollar business by serving, but also receiving. So it's that boomerang effect. When you give somebody some referrals, when they ask you, hey, how can I help you? Have something for them. Hey, I need help here. Here's my podcast. I'm starting to whatever that is, it's changed my life. My universe has changed. So receive that, but also receive it with love.
Right. And that's the law of reciprocity that Bob Burg talks about in the Go Giver book, because you can, otherwise you put people in debt to you. They are in help debt, right? And then they don't want to ask you for more help, or every time they see you, they feel like they're in some kind of a debt to you and they feel uncomfortable. Yeah. So you want to make sure that you let them contribute as well. I agree.
And you make them feel like takers.
Right.
That is so negative. It's like, oh my God, I gave a lady 12 referrals. Jan, I love her. This is probably 3 or 4 months ago. She was on my show. She's like, oh my God, this is crazy. Well, she started bringing me referrals, and I, of course, accepted them. She goes, man, you're so great because you're really a great connector and all that. But the key for me was to accept that. Here's where I need help. Great, Steve, I got some people. So now the giving goes both ways. You're not just making them feel like takers.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. So what kind of referrals are you looking for? Like, how can people help you?
Yeah, I'm looking for very highly successful people that want to talk about their struggles, their obstacles, and how they serve through that, and how they serve. Because I feel that celebrities, pro athletes that I have on, hyper successful business people like you, Adi, they go, okay, these people, Adi's successful. Oh my gosh, she's had failures. Oh my God, look how she takes care of her people. It's just not selling. It's just not a client. It's much more than that. Because we all look up to people. I mean, I'm a personal fan of The Rock. I think he's an incredible businessman. He's done incredible things. I look up to him. I mean, I'd love to have him on my show. But we all need, you might call him a mentor or a vision of what you want to see. That's what I want on my show, that somebody comes on the show and they listen and they've learned something. They've been motivated. They've been inspired.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Steve, what's the name of, let's promote your show. What's the name of your show? I would like our listeners to go and listen to it and watch it. So how can they get a hold of you, and how can they learn about everything that you put out there?
Doing Business with a Servant's Heart's my podcast. Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. And then launching in early part of November will be Together We Serve, TV show on E360 TV. You'll find it on Roku, Apple TV, Android TV. I'm excited about that because it's taken this serving mentality. And I get really jaded, and this is weird to say, but I say it all the time because I'm around people like you, Adi, that just know servant's part of our life. But then I talk to people, go, oh my gosh, I just ran the 12 people that aren't servants. Oh my God, they're trying to take from me. They're suing me, or they just didn't have that mentality. So it needs to change in the world. And if we can help in any way we can, I'd be excited about that.
Absolutely. So I'm going to include the links to the TV and to the podcast in the show notes. And I definitely encourage our listeners to to subscribe to it, download, however you listen to podcasts, and make it a routine to listen to Steve and his guests, because he has a phenomenal show. And it is inspiring. It's a great way to start your week. It's a great way to get inspired and to remind yourself that we all would do better if we actually embody and adopt that servant heart. So Steve, it's been a pleasure having you on this show. Thank you so much for sharing that information and for spreading all this good around. We definitely need it, and I truly appreciate it.
I thank you, and the audience, if you're listening this far, go serve the next person you meet.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thanks for listening to the System Simplified podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.